Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Alex. Welcome to this Reform for Small Business event. But oddly enough, it took a Frenchman to give Britain its perfect self-description back in the 18th century. Facing defeat once again at the hands of the Royal Navy, a petulant revolutionary said, "Let Pitt then boast of his victory to his nation of shopkeepers." Naturally, we took that as the greatest compliment he had to offer. Britain was a nation of shopkeepers and of small workshops, and in many ways it still is. Small businesses are at the heart of our towns and of our economy. They employ 17 million people right across the country. When they prosper, we all prosper. And when they're struggling, it's a sign that something is going very badly wrong. Thanks to decades of neglect, many small businesses are on their knees right now. Surveys show that less than a fifth of Britain's small businesses are expecting to grow over the next 12 months, and almost a third are expecting to shrink or close altogether. And why is this? Well, the Tories pushed net zero without thinking about its effect on energy prices. They froze the VAT registration thresholds while inflation was running wild. They forced small businesses to shell out on accountants and waste their time with admin. They hiked corporation tax just after the pandemic that had devastated businesses and their reserves. Kemi Badenoch bragged about her plans to slash retained EU law, but then bottled it and dropped the sunset clause and kept the vast majority on the books. Mel Stride oversaw the loan charge, which battered small businesses and sole traders. Capital markets like AIM have withered away. Investors who might have financed businesses have been chased out of the country to cover for Rishi Sunak's own personal tax affairs. And the tax code? It grew by a quarter to almost 23,000 pages. After being booted out of office, the Tories passed the mantle to the Labour Party. Labour's assault on small businesses, the jobs tax, the inheritance tax, the burden of Angela Rayner's employment regulation is only making things much, much worse. And just this week, Andy Burnham has prepared the already scorched earth for more tax rises in the budget this autumn. This government doesn't know how businesses are built. They've not built them themselves, and frankly, I don't believe they even care for those who do. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our message to small businesses is simple. Hold on, because help is on its way. Today, I'm setting out how a Reform UK government, led by Nigel Farage, will fix the mess left by the old parties with a new contract for small business that starts by helping you to raise money, to get going, to hire your first employees. Whether you grow your business into a scale-up or choose the freedom of continuing to work on your own, we will be there for you every step of the way. So we will unlock access to finance and mentoring to those just starting out by changing the rules to allow parents and grandparents to make modest tax-favoured investments in family firms through seed investment schemes. Because starting a business shouldn't be dependent on owning a home or having very well-connected friends. And we will reform the rules for non-executive directors, so experienced people can mentor small businesses without risking a huge bill if it goes wrong. Where Labour are putting up regulatory barriers, Reform is going to tear them down. A Reform government will repeal and replace the silly GDPR rules that suffocate small businesses, and in particular, the tech sector. One study found that the number of new apps launched had fallen by half, partly as a result of this overburdensome regulation. Of course, Reform is going to maintain important protections for personal privacy, but we will cut out the unnecessary and the burdensome red tape that has been ladled on in recent years. Our new legislation will be modelled on New Zealand's Privacy Act, which the EU still recognises, so trade continues unaffected, but which has substantially cut compliance costs for ordinary businesses and startups. Because a reformed government will get out of the way and let small companies build again, whether it's software or houses, you name it. We'll scrap the electric vehicle mandates for cars and for vans, letting businesses and white van men choose the vehicles they want to drive, that they think are right for them and their businesses. We'll make sure that the cost of fuel and energy isn't insurmountable, because we know it's such an important element of paying the day-to-day bills in a company. And we'll do that by ending the net zero policies that are driving up bills right now. We'll cancel the 5p rise in fuel duty that's coming down the line. And isn't John Healey conspicuously silent about that one? When you want to hire staff, we'll be there to help you. That's why we're the only party that has said unambiguously that we will abolish Rachel Reeves's job tax on British workers, and we'll fund that with that tax cut with a levy on migrant labour, so businesses can nurture homegrown talent without being undercut by foreign workers. Reform will never tire of putting British people first, and we will ensure that we back businesses that do the same every day of the week. Reform will provide apprenticeship wage credits and a retention bonus for the small businesses who take a chance on young British people, on people like my dad, whose apprenticeship taught him the skills he needed eventually to set up his own company and get going in life. The credit would save employers £4,700 every year. And the retention bonus, that will give workers an incentive to stay with the business that's trained them up, with a £2,000 bonus that's paid 2 years after the training if they remain with their employer who's invested in them. And we'll unwind Labour's anti-jobs legislation, ending the hiring freeze that came with Angela Rayner's so-called Employment Rights Act. When it comes to filing your taxes, we'll make it fairer and easier. We'll introduce a hard work bonus, scrapping income tax on overtime, so employees are properly rewarded when they go above and beyond. Now, this might not mean very much for people in the City of London, but let me tell you, this could be worth £700 a year to a distribution factory worker in Nottinghamshire. We'll raise the VAT threshold from 90,000 to 150,000, saving small companies hours of headaches and hundreds of pounds each year, managing all the admin that goes with it, and crucially, removing the incentive to stay just below the registration threshold. We back ambitious people. That means 320,000 companies are going to be better off under reform overnight. We'll reverse Labour's inheritance tax, smash and grab on family farms and small businesses with property, enabling you to hand your business on to your children and your grandchildren, and end all those sleepless nights worrying about how it's going to play out. And today, I'm announcing a new approach for HMRC, the taxman. We've all been stuck waiting on the HMRC phone line, spending hours on hold, trying to give them money that you have earned, losing time that you'll never get back. It's enough to drive you mad. Small businesses spend 242 million hours and £25 billion doing their taxes every year. The taxman, meanwhile, he fails to answer millions of calls. It takes more than a month to reply to letters, and 2 years can pass to process a simple refund. There's one small business owner in Manchester who was handed a £2.85 billion tax bill, almost £3 billion. HMRC even sent collection agents to his house when they said he wasn't paying up. Of course, it turned out that they were wrong, and the real bill was £2,500. Did he get an apology? I bet he's still waiting for it. Last year, MPs were accusing HMRC of deliberately degrading its own services to force people onto the website. It's a disgrace. Frankly, it is offensive to working people, and I have had enough. So we will give HMRC a big incentive to actually provide proper customer service. So I'm announcing today that under a Reform government, if you spend more than half an hour waiting for HMRC to answer your call, you will get a £30 credit off your tax bill. If HMRC delay, well, they can repay. And to make sure that the staff actually hit their targets, we'll tie the pay of senior HMRC officials to their customer service performance. It's just fair. The taxman has been treating people trying to do their best to understand an unbelievably complicated tax system appallingly. As Chancellor, I'm going to do things differently to my predecessors. HMRC will send to me daily figures on waiting times until they fix it. Now, I'm a patient man, but if they test my patience, as they are testing the patience of millions of people across our country right now, they'll be fired. And there'll be no golden parachutes either. They will be waiting on hold for that for a very long time. Things are going to change under Reform. The Treasury is going to do things differently. We believe that while small businesses have done their part for Britain, they have been let down by out-of-touch politicians, people who've never had to go over the accounts, people who've never sat up late worried about where the money's going to come from, never sat watching a budget, frankly, waiting to see what the latest Chancellor is going to do. Are they going to put you out of business? Reform is different. Look at our team: Nigel, Richard, Zia, myself. People who have started companies, who have grown companies, who've managed companies, who know what it takes and how difficult it can be. And for me, this mission is personal. My dad, Bill, left school in Manchester aged 16 to be an apprentice. He worked for Ford in Dagenham and a foundry in the Black Country. And then he started his own small business around our kitchen table, fitting fireplaces. A story the same as hundreds of thousands across the country. And I remember too that it was a long time before that business was successful. Even as a child, you know when things are going well and you know when things are going badly. You know when they're waiting for the next sale, when your parents are having quiet conversations late at night about money that they think you can't hear. It was a long road for him to be successful, but it did work out. And until last year, age 85, he was still at the factory 5 days a week, 8 a.m., shirt and tie on, doing his job. And if he didn't have that work ethic, he wouldn't have built that business. He instilled that work ethic in me. It's something that I've brought to the businesses that I've run and to politics as well. And let me be very clear. This is what Reform believe. The state doesn't create wealth. It doesn't make good jobs. It doesn't make good businesses. It can break them. But what it can do, with the right leadership and determination, is create a competitive environment in which entrepreneurs can succeed, can prosper, can achieve their dreams. That is why we are setting out this contract today. Together, it is the most comprehensive plan for small business any government has launched in decades. A commitment to getting the government out of the way of the people who want to be their own boss, to hire a new worker, to start a family firm. A commitment to funding a new generation of technical and construction skills. A commitment to make sure that hard work pays, that enterprise always has its reward. In return, we ask three things. Firstly, we ask that small businesses keep being some of the best employers that Britain has to offer, treating workers fairly and well. Secondly, we ask that they keep taking risks and keep betting on Britain. And thirdly, we ask that they keep doing their part to make Britain grow again, to get this country off its knees, to get this country back to being a great country once again. The simple truth is that small businesses have been doing all these things and more. It's the government that's failed to uphold its side of the bargain. The Reform government will fix this. So to every entrepreneur in Britain today, and everybody who's sat at home thinking about doing it, dreaming about what you too could build, if Andy Burnham and John Healey won't take our contract and implement it now, then hold on. Keep the faith. Keep going. Because change is on its way. A Reform government is going to fix this. Britain is broken, but it can be fixed. And Reform have a plan to fix small businesses and help you to achieve your dreams. Thank you very much indeed.